My name is Jade, and I'll be your timekeeper for the day. I'll show you the warning sign where there are 10, 5, 2, and 10 seconds left. Once the 10-second countdown is up, I will say stop, after which the team must stop talking immediately. Afterwards, a 10 minutes question and answer period will follow. I would like to remind you that all the teams must present for a minimum of 15 minutes and all team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A question period. For the audience, we ask that you please place your phones on silent mode and remain seated in the room for the duration of the full presentation and Q&A period. I will now let the judges introduce themselves. Once we're done, you may begin your presentation and the timer will start. Judges.
Anila Chance, IT Wealth Management, Area Leader.
Marco Ottoni, I co-founded a palliative care residence. I used to work in finance for 25 years, trading stocks, and sit on a couple of foundation boards.
Shauna Denis, I'm VP of content for the Montreal Canadiens, which is a hockey team here in Montreal.
Jim DeChoco, 37 years of banking, retired. Good luck.
Enjoy.
In a world of uncertainty, one thing for certain is the need to stand up when others sit down. Hi, my name's Nick. Today I'm joined by Daniel and Nathan, and today we're here to talk about empowering women in finance. So today, the four main phases that we'll be touching on is 1, what we heard, giving you a quick overview of the current analysis. 2, transitioning to learning a little bit more about our recommendation. Then, talking about our implementation strategy at a granular level. And then, last but certainly not least, how we're going to retain and measure the success of our strategy.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. And with that, I'd like to really go into the key ask as we understand it today from what we heard. And that key ask is that basically we have leadership is looking for a strategy to basically attract and retain female employees as asset managers when it comes to Mackenzie investments. And we have 3 main areas here that are kind of the focus of our problems. And basically, to begin, we have lack of awareness and exposure. What we've seen is that, in general, the women who are in these types of programs just aren't really understanding what is actually out there and available to them with respect to wealth management. The second area is lack of mentorship opportunities. So we see that for women that are actually looking to get their foot in the door when it comes to the application process to get into wealth management, they actually have a lack of mentorship opportunities and just don't really understand who they can leverage to kind of help get their foot in the door there. And these issues together lead to high turnover. So when we actually do get people into the wealth management firms, particularly into Mackenzie, we see a problem that there's actually just really high turnover among these individuals, and we want to make sure that we change that. And so with that, I'd like to bring to you Driven Diana. And Driven Diana is a personality, she's a friend of mine. This is a first-year business student. She really wants to get her foot in the door in wealth management, but she just doesn't quite know how to go about it. She hasn't really heard of much going on, and she just isn't really sure where to go. And this might be an experience that many of you in this room might actually be familiar with yourselves as well. And so with that, we want to help Driven Diana out today. And that brings us to our recommendation. What are we going to show you today on how we can get Driven Diana out of this bubble and help her actually get her foot in the door in wealth management? And with that, we'd like to present to you our recommendation. And our recommendation today will be to partner with these business student associations that are these women-focused business student associations and to provide them an endowment fund for them to manage with their investments.
But Dan, what's an endowment fund?
And that's a great question, Nick. So endowment funds are essentially an amount of money that's given to an organization at the university for a club for them to manage that investment portfolio. And we already see this with a lot of different types of clubs, but they just aren't women focused. So for example, we have a lot of different student investment clubs or finance clubs that are actually given an amount of money to manage from big wealth management or big other types of financial institutions, and then they go and they make educated decisions and present their findings.
So now that we know what endowment funds are, why would we go to these student clubs?
That's a great question, Nick, and actually that's what we're saying here today is we're not going to go to those existing student clubs. And the reason why we're not going to go to those existing ones is because these finance clubs that already exist actually really demonstrate a lot of the problems that are facing the wealth management area today with respect to female representation. So for example, even though females make up 25% of finance degrees, we might see that in these clubs that are actually happening, we see that they make up even less than 25%, oftentimes making up even fewer than 10% of the membership of these clubs. And so with that, we want to make sure that we're going to be partnering with these female-oriented business student associations, and we're basically going to be providing to them a very similar approach where we provide them an amount of money to manage, but it's going to be a female-only run initiative in the female student clubs. And we're going to talk a little bit more later on in the presentation on which specific clubs we're actually going to target. But that being said, I'd like to talk a little bit about our metrics for success. So we kind of brought you this recommendation. We said we're going to implement this program. We're going to partner with these female business organizations at business schools all across Canada, which is Mackenzie Investments' primary market. And with that, I'd like to talk about our three main challenges as I referenced before. So the first one is lack of awareness and exposure. And mainly what we're going to do here is that we're going to want to see this issue with attracting women resolved. So we're going to be looking at the application rates that we're receiving from primarily female candidates. And then after that, we're going to look at the recruitment source effectiveness. So we're going to want to see that this actual approach is giving us a really high rate of effectiveness from these schools. Then the next one that we're going to look at, the next one that we're going to look at is going to be mentoring and developing. And that covers that second bucket, which is the lack of mentorship opportunities. It's the reason why we have a lack of sponsorship that's actually happening within Mackenzie for women who not only are getting that mentorship, but are actually staying in the long term with respect to having that, one-on-one relationship with someone in a higher position at Mackenzie. And so with that, we're going to be looking at career progression. We want to see that individuals who are going through our program are getting long-term success in their career at Mackenzie. And with that, internal mobility. So we want to see a lot of movement and internal promotions. We don't want to be bringing people in for positions, but we want to be promoting them. And we're going to touch on that more. And lastly, we have our retention. And so for retention, that's going to be covering the high turnover problem that we mentioned. By tackling these issues, we can make sure that when these candidates who are coming in from this program that we're presenting today, we want to actually see them in the long term staying at Mackenzie, because we're going to eliminate a lot of those barriers that are in the way, like the lack of sponsorship from senior executives, because we're already going to have that through our program, and we're going to touch on that a little more today.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. So now that we further understand the current situation in the market, we've identified our course of action. Together, let's take an elevator to the ground floor and understand how this works. First, the name of our campaign is Her Capital, and will be comprised of three main phases. First, our application phase, where we will connect with universities at the ground level to help establish infrastructure in order for them to have and onboard an endowment fund. Second is execution, where we go even further to go one-on-one with Mackenzie Investments advisors and asset managers to get real-world experience. And last but certainly not least is the attraction phase, where we actually attract these young students to Mackenzie Investments through potential internships as well as full-time offers as well. So, before we go into specifically each phase, I want to reintroduce Driven Diana and use her as an example on how we can further support this process. So Diana, being a first-year university student, is really looking to expand her knowledge on finance. So what this looks like in order to enter the application process is having a specific Women in Finance club at your universities. The parameters are set where you'll have to have 20 students in order to ensure that it is evident that it should be happening at that university. Number two, require 2 faculty advisors so that they can oversee the operations and ensure that they're using the money to the purpose it was intended to have. 3 is to attending a learning and development day. Will there further understand what the process of managing funds are for them to ultimately take on a group of money and manage on their own. And last, would commit to a 5-year partnership that would solidify us in investing in early education for women in university. Secondary, phase 2, would be execution, where we would assign a female asset manager to each club. What this would look like on the local level, for example, in Canada, take a market like Toronto. This would look like an asset manager in Toronto partnering with U of T and managing different touch points throughout the endowment process. From there, Mackenzie Investments would invest a $25,000 endowment for them to get their feet wet and start to experience what it is like firsthand to manage money. From there, we can transition into bi-weekly meetings and touch points where through senior leadership from Mackenzie Investments, they can further ask questions, refine their strategy, and ultimately learn. And then last, we have an opportunity to visit Mackenzie's regional office to celebrate their accomplishments and further substantiate the connection from the university to Mackenzie's entry point into the job market. And our last phase, phase 3, is attraction. As I further said, so how this would work is we directly tie the program to Mackenzie Investments because we're educating them through the program, and they will be large proponents and advocates of the program given their firsthand experience and learning. So, to further tie this back to Daniel's key factors of success, we know that phase 1 through the application process, we will attract women and empower them through Mackenzie because they will be thinking of Mackenzie Investments top of mind when they think of investing in women in finance. Number 2, mentoring and development directly relates to execution because we're able to help refine not only their soft but technical skills, ensuring that when they enter the door on the first day, they're ready to go and be killers. And last but certainly not least, through attracting them, we're able to ensure that we retain them throughout the hiring process, which we've seen through our analysis is a main factor to consider. And how does this relate to Mackenzie Investments as a whole? Well, through partnering with different universities, we can ensure that we're building unshakable relationships to empower women in finance in the future. And you might be asking yourself, okay, you're just telling me this, but don't take my word for it. Take these 4 universities that currently have a Women in Finance Club. So, through partnering with each university, as well as connecting with others across Canada, there is an immense opportunity to not only stand up, but differentiate Mackenzie Investments further in the financial industry.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. And now, you might still not be convinced, and that's okay. When it's important to consider all of the different alternatives. And so we thought of a few other ideas as well that might be something that you might hear from other consulting groups here today. But we think, and I'll run you through each one. So the first one is social media influencing, and this one actually has a pretty similar outcome to lead partnerships. But what we would expect to see with social media influencing is we would expect someone to say, well, why doesn't Mackenzie just invest a lot more into investing in social media avenues to promote more women going into this field of work? Why don't we try to do something with a social media partnership with some kind of big influencer to try and get them to bring more people in as well? And when we think about that is that, well, that might be addressing that really first stage of attraction. We might be able to get some people into the door, but it doesn't actually address any of the underlying problems that are there that are causing people to leave. It's causing women a really high turnover rate in Mackenzie, so we just know that that is not the right approach for us to take. And we have a similar concept with league partnerships. So a little bit of background really quick. With league partnerships, we see that the women's sports field in Canada has really been increasing. And we see this especially with the new Women's National Hockey League, and we also see it as well with the NSL, which is their soccer equivalent. And what we see here is a very similar outcome to the first option, which is social media influencing. And while we might be able to attract more people by, for example, being the official investment provider of these types of organizations or having some other form of partnership, we just don't believe that once these women are actually coming into Mackenzie and joining our team, that they're not going to fall to the same exact reasons that we have already heard about, that there's a lack of mentorship opportunities occurring, sponsorship occurring in the organization. So these are things we have to change in order to actually resolve the problems that we outlined here today. So that for that reason, we know that we're not going to go with that option. The third option, and this might be the biggest one that you might hear, is why don't we do a top-down approach? Maybe we put in a female CEO for Mackenzie. Maybe we change up the tone at the top. We put in some new leadership and see how that goes. And while we do think that this might actually help potentially with attracting and retaining, that's something that will happen down the line because it takes a lot of time to implement those types of changes. This isn't something that's going to happen quick. And on top of that, It might be successful with mentoring and developing because, again, having that tone set at the top might get things in motion quicker, but we just don't think that it's adequately actually changing things from the bottom up. And that's what we really are concerned about. We don't just want to set the tone at the top. We really want to change things from the bottom up to ensure that we have a really good position for this. And with that, we get to our solution. And if you could click the slide, Nick, women in business clubs. And this is basically what we mentioned before, which is specifically targeting these existing women in business clubs across many Canadian universities, and essentially using the same exact philosophy that all of these investment clubs are using, where we give them the opportunity to make educated decisions with respect to their investments, getting their foot in the door, getting one-on-one time with either executives or just managers at Mackenzie, in order to really make sure that they're developing that relationship early on, so that when they come into the company, that problem is no longer there. By doing that, we can make sure that we're increasing the attraction, that we keep them retained at our company, and that we're not going to have a high turnover anymore. We get to keep that mentoring relationship going, and our developing phase starts in university and carries through all the way, even when they're already working with us.
Now that we've talked about connecting with university students at the local level and getting granular on our implementation process, I'm going to pass it to Nathan to talk a little bit more about how we're going to retain and measure our success.
Thank you, Nick. Now, I'd like to bring it back to Diana. Now that she's working in Mackenzie Investments and she's starting her professional career through the pipeline we introduced with the women investment clubs, we must consider how to retain Diana. Now, this comes into three major buckets: the junior, middle, and upper career progressions. Firstly, we understand that women are predominantly given administrative tasks at a higher rate than their male counterparts in all facets of their roles. This becomes incredibly difficult for them to progress in their careers and climb that corporate ladder because they're not given the experience and the opportunities to hone their skills. Now, what we're addressing here is that Mackenzie Investments regulates administrative work through work time labor and specifically looking at billable hours. Most firms, and the usage of them at Mackenzie does, would allow us to see the administrative tasks that are being done by the female counterparts and male, and to make sure that they're on an equal playing field. Now, because of this, Diana is able to progress to our middle career office, but at this time she also faces an issue. She's having a child or stepping away for what predominantly females do, which is parental and family needs over their male counterparts that usually stay in the workforce. Now, we are talking about something called returnship. After these long times away from work, it is important not to throw people back into the cataclysm of the office. And lots of times, this is one of the key and major reasons that women tend to end their careers earlier than male counterparts. With returnship at Mackenzie Investments, we can ensure a more streamlined approach to bringing back Diana after whatever situation in their life occurs. Additionally, this can be used on non-male counterparts as well, who also have the same parental needs and requirements. Now, finally, moving on to sponsorship. As Nick and Daniel touched on, these women are given copious amounts of mentorship opportunities with C-suite and senior executives. But that isn't enough. Just because you're able to have a conversation once every week, it doesn't mean you're going to climb into that C-suite position that you're looking for. Well, with the sponsorship package, the sponsorship goals of Mackenzie Investments, it will be creating a pipeline and streamlining not only mentorship opportunities, but also ensuring that there's actual evidence and required follow-up in the terms of professional stream to better workflows for executive positions. Now that we've covered some of the retainment aspects, I'd like to bring you to some risks that our solution involves. So the first of which involves the fund mismanagement. To ensure that the fund isn't going to be underutilized or utilized in an improper way, it's important to have the faculty advisors on board, additionally having oversight and periodic audits and adjustments. These senior advisors at Mackenzie Investments that will be talking to these women in business programs and clubs will ensure that there's a smooth and progressive growth of the fund at the school, and that the company's money at Mackenzie isn't used unjustly for extracurricular activities. Now, looking at interest from students, another key consideration with the original recruitment issue. Interest from these students, it's extremely important in this first 5 years that these targeted schools have strong business fundamentals and additionally robust programs and clubs that already exist. As we showed before with McGill, U of T, and Waterloo, their financial funds, their assets under management, and their predominantly co-ed funds and more predominantly male funds are extremely high, and they're known for the rigor of their courses, which make them a great starting point for the team. And finally, looking at turnover remains high. This goes back to the retainment side of things. But with periodic review again of the benefits that are being given to employees, specifically in regards to how the returnship works, we can ensure that Mackenzie Investments hits their KPIs, which I'm happy to talk about after we go over a financial analysis quickly. So to talk about the costs associated, we have the endowment, which is around $25,000, exactly $25,000 per school at a one-time cost. In the first 5 years, we're opening up 5 university club endowments. That's going to be 1 in the first year, and then seeing how that goes into the second year, and then going 1, 1, 2. And then at the end of this, we can just accumulate into a $585,000 cost for a 5-year investment. But you're probably wondering, what are our returns? And we want to bring you back to their key KPIs here. And before I get into the numbers on the screen, I want to mention 2 case studies. One done by Harvard, MIT, and Columbia University's investment clubs, which found 70 to 90% of students that belonged to them were able to obtain internship and full-time offers in their respective financial fields. And additionally, another that talks about McKinsey saying that 30% of women are likely to leave at middle stages of their management because they feel like they're underprepared because of the amount of mentorship, the lack of sponsorship, and the administrative work that they've been given. Now, this falls into our 3-pillar retention and her capital fund. We are assuming that through this, we can get a 20% increase in the recruitment-related KPIs outlined to us, as well as a 15%. And on the right of the screen, we can see how far McKinsey can come within the 5-year mark. And I'll pass it back to Nick now.
In a world of uncertainty, one thing for certain is the need to stand up when others sit down. So what do you say? Let's kick our chairs to the side together. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now begin the question and answer period. Friendly reminder, the Q&A period will only be for 10 minutes long.
Yeah, I was wondering actually 2 questions. One, if you can just go back to the financials there, the operational expenses, can you just explain a little bit of what that is?
Yes. So on top of just endowing the funds to the schools, operational expenses include not only the communication between the senior staff of Mackenzie Investments, but also events and connections at HQ, resulting in several included costs, including costs of travel as well as the hosting of the events. For example, a consideration is to have at the end of the 5th year a competition style kind of categorization of how much have you grown your endowment fund. And in that type of strategy, you're able then to bring together the top schools who are using the endowment from Mackenzie Investments and then actually compete maybe for a spot in the interview for a women asset management role.
Okay. And then just a real quick question for you about the female asset manager who would be the mentor of these students.
Yes.
And the bi-weekly meetings. Is there any compensation being factored in? You're adding additional workload specifically on female asset managers. So retention-wise, do you see any issues with that you're adding bi-weekly meetings and admin tasks to them?
Yes, we can definitely acknowledge that, their plates are full already to begin with. So something we didn't have the opportunity to touch on during the presentation, but we think is a potentially good use of time, is when, women are having children, right? What we found through, when we analyzed the case, is they have a tough transition coming back to work, and they feel like they're slammed off the gate. I know from my experience, my mom had the same experience there. So what we think is it would be a low lift for people who are women that are currently having children to give them the opportunity, if they want to continue to be stayed in the loop, they can while they're on their leave. Of course, we don't expect them to be a full-time mother and this and also working at Mackenzie Investments, but we think that's a potential opportunity to actually use mothers who are during that time.
I just switching gears a little bit. This is focused on the head end and recruitment and making Mackenzie an attractive place for young females to consider as a place of employment, industry, etc. Well, what about, is there anything from this that can be put to work in the company today to retain, very valued employees, female employees, who are considering punching their ticket and leaving?
Yes, of course, and that goes back to the retainment slide So once you're in the firm, we separated by those 3 levels. So as a junior employee, one of your main concerns is how can I get out of junior employment to that middle manager level? and it's extremely difficult. As I talked about, the admin task rate is just basically unfair for women. And the main consideration to getting to that mid-manager level is taking on tasks of higher complexity. And we believe one of the key ways to get these women asset managers to get the experience, the knowledge they need to take on that middle manager level is to really balance and monitor the utilization of work hours and making sure that not only is it not admin related tasks the women are doing, but they're also being given challenging roles and opportunities at that junior level. As well as what's already known that Mackenzie Investments has great mentorship programs for women. It's not a lack of knowledge or opportunity to learn, but it's a lack to apply. And that's what we really want to change here.
In addition, in terms of getting started as soon as today, I think it also piggybacks on this idea itself. I know within a lot of corporations and including Mackenzie Investments, there's a lot of committees that I'm sure all of you sit on. There could be an opportunity to immediately ignite the fire today, and we see this as a waterfall effect where we have to start at the ground level because it's a market issue, right? So what we want to do is we want to raise our hand first and say, we acknowledge that this is an issue and it's not right. And how we're going to solve this is connecting at the ground level, and through iterations of this program over the years, we'll see the workforce shift. So I think it's igniting it as early as today through different various committees.
Question regarding the junior section. Can you elaborate more about the billable hours you were referring to? What
So
was
for the junior section, so at large corporations like yourself, there is a Workday is a commonly used website, among others, that actually track the client billing rates that are used. This is more predominantly used in financial institutions like the Big Four, where you're doing client-based audit work or tax work. However, this is where the worker has the onus to actually input hours on a related basis to the type of work and the client that they're working on. This then allows for budgeting to be kept on track. Additionally, if Mackenzie Investments isn't fully incorporating that into its work stream already, the utilization of it for specific administrative hours is a more reliable way and a more safe approach than doing an entire and scoping billable hour rate, because in this way, women feel that they're taking advantage of the system Mackenzie is providing to really get that clarity and illustrate the lack thereof work they're getting because of the hours they're doing in administration. So it allows for more transparency in their workflow without having directly to contact their PMs or to bring up issues.
I've got a couple of questions. If you can bring back your financial slide. So my understanding was the university would get $25,000 in the endowment fund, but you also referred to 4 different universities. So which university would be getting the $25,000? Would this be rolled out? Is that be $65,000 per university, or that's just your first year?
So I'll clarify. So these total annual costs are not directly related per university. It is more a encompassing total kind of group per year cost. So in the first year, we can see you have that one new group, and that first line there talks about the new groups made each year, which relates to the endowment fund kind of schedule that you see. And then you get to the total group, which is that second italicized line, and that just gives you a reminder of the actual amount of groups or funds that you've launched at these schools. But just a general kind of overview of this, each school that's open will always have a marketing recruitment fund, and that's set at $10,000 for ease of use and justification in a conservative manner that you're going to be advertising on campus through various platforms. The operational expenses, like we touched on, covers a lot more about the events and the other activities that are taking place at HQ and with the senior advisors. And then the miscellaneous costs are scaling based again per year on the amount of schools that are open at a much slower rate.
So you're doing a slow rollout, like one university?
Exactly. That's the main consideration, because you want to make sure that the endowment fund isn't only being utilized but growing, but also that the students within that 5-year range, are you getting more applicants? Are these applicants women that are coming from these programs? Is Diana applying from her asset management program through the University of Waterloo?
Okay, so if we go back to when you're looking at social media, your slide on that. So you had like a yellow line. We were just discussing that we've got more and more women professionals. You go back to two slides. Right there, perfect. So you were averse that when you looked at the tracking, you got the yellow, so you didn't go towards that. But in the same argument, there's more and more women that are watching these hockey leagues and all that. Then you stayed away from it because the logic was that when you're still going to have the problems with retention. But if I'm understanding your pitch properly, the fact that you are bringing in the mentorship programs and all that, shouldn't that be concurrent to that, and it would bode well for what you're doing?
So the way that we see it is that actually it would bode well for attracting, and actually that's why it's yellow, because we do acknowledge that there might be some movement there. But what we don't believe, and first of all, just to backtrack a little bit, even with the league partnership, for example, or even social media, we actually put it yellow because we're not 100% convinced that just because a first-year university girl might see a TikTok about wealth management, that they're going to say, that's what I want to do, that's where I want to go into. We do think that it might help kind of back with what it was before, which was the awareness aspect. It might help them realize that, oh, there's this whole area that I can get into. But the key is that it doesn't actually do anything else. It doesn't change any of the stuff going on internally. It doesn't change anything to do with retaining, mentoring, or developing, because all of the existing processes are just the same. We're not actually making any changes. The difference, and why with the women who are in business, their clubs that they have, the reason why we think it's different is because we're specifically attacking them in order to make sure that we're getting by getting that one-on-one mentorship already going between the people at Mackenzie and the investment club. So every time these women are meeting or doing, for example, a pitch on a fund to an investment manager at Mackenzie, they're developing that relationship with them so that when they actually go and they then enter those, the Mackenzie workforce, that they already have that relationship developed with the high levels of staff at Mackenzie. So it's just filling in, we're not saying that it doesn't do it for social media, but we're saying that attracting is the only thing that we can even potentially attribute to social media, whereas they don't have anything to do with retaining, mentoring, or developing. Whereas the one that we did has
Good
all
answer.
four.
Good answer. Yeah.
That was the last question, sorry. So the question and answer period is up. Thank you, delegates and judges, for your presentation. I'll ask everyone to leave the room so we can start preparing this next presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Well done, Nick.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm sorry.
Well done. There were questions. Good.
I'll just leave the
So hello. Oh, are you good? Hello, my name is Jade, and I'll be your timekeeper for the day. I'll show you the warning sign when there are 10, 5, 2 minutes, and 30 seconds remaining. Once the 10-second countdown is up, I'll say stop, and I'll say stop, after which the team must stop talking immediately. Afterwards, a 10 minutes question and answer period will follow. I would like to remind you that all the teams must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, and all the team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. For the audience, just remind to put your phone on the silent mode. And I will now let the judges introduce themselves. When they are done, you may begin your presentation. Judges.
Nila Shams from IG Wealth Management, been 29 years in the industry. Good luck.
Marco Tony, I was an institutional stock trader for 25 years and then started Palliative Care Residence and now volunteer and sit on a couple of foundation boards.
Hi, I'm Sean Denis. I'm VP of Content and Commercial Marketing for the Montreal Post, which is Massachusetts.
Tim Giacomo, I spent 37 years in banking here in Canada, investment banking and commercial banking,
Hold on one sec, sorry. Can you give them a second?
Of course.
Yeah. Not fair. Distraction.
Thank you.
So it's Versana, Papashaya, Prisa, and then we brought Cessa. Okay.
You must now begin.
In the midst of a storm, found a boat lost and uncertain of its direction. The lighthouse that shines brightest through the darkness is what's guiding that boat. What if I tell you today that Mackenzie Investment is that boat, and we're here to be the lighthouse? Good afternoon, judges. Together we're Prosper Consulting, and we're here to propose on how Mackenzie Investment can achieve its objective. As Canada's largest asset management industry, they are aiming to empower Canadians female in order to reduce gender disparity. Now let's begin by looking at their current industry. As the company is in the Canadian asset management industry, we can see that the women are underrepresented, as presented by the percent that in Canada, only 12% of investment roles are represented by women. However, when you benchmark with the worldwide percent, it's up to 12.5%. Plus, this men-to-women ratio has remained stagnant for 20 years. But the issue is not rooted in the lack of available talents, since up to 59% of university students are women, and 25.7% are finance students. Now this leads to the problem that these women faces lack of mentorship and limited educational opportunities, which leads to the industry-wise that they are unable to capture opportunities and from this pool of women in this industry. Next off, after the industry-wise, we look at our business. In terms of our business, we have missed the opportunity to attract female clients. But the question is, how is this impactful? Starting off with the first fact that Canadian women are expected to control up to 4 trillion Canadian dollars of financial assets by 2028, plus 80% of Canadian women switch advisor within 1 year of their partner's death, and 84% of high net worth females value female representations in leadership roles. This highlights how it is crucial for us to represent female in this industry for Mackenzie Investment. And as of right now, the question is Mackenzie Investment actively working on to achieve this objective? The answer is yes. Mackenzie Together is an initiative that Mackenzie Investment has released in order to achieve their objective of empowering Canadian women in asset management and to reduce the gender disparity. What are they currently doing? As of for their current initiatives, it can be separated into 3 main parts. For the recruitments, they are currently partnership with universities, which an example would be Women in Asset Management program with Ivy University, also with case competitions and recruitment events, and they offer benefits for parental benefit programs for women. Additionally, for the mentorship programs, they offer mentorships to females. However, the problem is that their mentorships are only offered to asset management fields and not the wider pool that is an opportunity for them to capture. Through further analysis, we have identified specific issues regarding their current initiatives that must be tackled, separated into 2 main processes: attract and retain. As for attract, also lack of availability to mentorships. And for retain, females face gender bias, which leads to the load of administrative tasks, also work-life balance, lack of sponsorship, and lack of female role model in order to inspire them to convert into the asset management industry. Now, this leads to the key question. How can Mackenzie Investment tackle the issue to achieve its main objective, as their current objective is to empower Canadian women in asset management industry to reduce gender disparity within 5 years time frame? The key issues, as mentioned earlier, we would like to propose 2 main strategies. 1, attract, and 2, retain.
Thank you very much. Without further ado, Prosper Consulting is proud to announce our 2 main strategies. Is proud to announce 2 main strategies, which is attract and retain. But before we dive into the strategies, we take a step back and understand that the current challenges under the recruitment process lies into 2 main problems. The first thing is the lack of awareness on the educational opportunities in the finance careers for women. And second is the availability of mentorships opportunity. But with this, IG Wealth Management is bold to come up with the initiative of Women in Asset Management. So this is the 10 to 12 summer program that offers educational programming, mentorship opportunity, and internships for all Canadian university students. However, if we look further closer into the program, here's the details of the program. It is done in summer, which is the internship period. And second thing is that it offers like free tuition for all the programs training, and also the free internship, the paid internship experience. However, I would like to highlight the eligibility part. These are the eligibility. So to summarize a little bit, it's open for all Canadian students who are women, and all of them can be from any faculty. But the thing is, there are some qualifications under this. You must have a strong track record of academic success while balancing extracurricular activities, which we see that although this initiative is the right direction, there are pain points under this. The first thing is the technical nature of the programs, with the clarifications that the program is looking for, which are looking for those who are also interested in asset management, to the point that they know about the program, they're able to interview for the program, and they can join the program to work for internships. Second thing is the lack of long-term support and career guidance, which is a very important thing, which highlight in the mentorship part of the program that in encouraging women to apply for finance role, mentorship is a very important aspect, but the program aims for 10 to 12 weeks, and there are no other post initiatives afterward, which we see that it is the initiative or opportunity that we must leverage. And lastly is the program timing. So for the program timing, there's a conflict with other commitments such as internships period. For example, to put it in the picture and to put it more tangible, I like to give example of the accounting students. For example, if the accounting students who are like not directly in the finance sector, but they are the potential candidates that have the expertise and might be interested in applying for the finance role as well. However, they do have like the audit internships commitment. Therefore, she would not be applying for this program because this program clashes with her audit work. But she just wants to explore the program, wants to know more about the program. And this is a pain point that we have to tackle, is the fixed period of the timing of the Women in Asset Management from McKinsey. And with this, Prosper Consulting today is proud to announce our 3 initiatives that we aim to tackle the recruitment process. And we do realize 3 goals that we have to keep in mind in crafting these strategies. We realize that first thing that we have to do is that all the initiatives that we're here to present today must be catered to not only those who are interested or know about the asset management, but must be catered to everyone who might be interested, every potential candidates. Therefore, we aim to raise awareness among those people, those women that are potential candidates too. Second thing, we do realize the importance of mentorship inside the finance career, and we aim to leverage on that. And third thing, we do realize in crafting these strategies that we have limited access of mentorships due to the less women ratio in McKinsey. And without further ado, let's dive into the first strategy, guest lecture. So in guest lecture, we aim to feature our McKinsey's women's talent in guest lecturing. These are examples of the courses that we can guest lectures. Since right now, we're the people who work in the real world industry, so if we can guest lecturing in those courses, like give the real world practice to the students out there, what's work like, what's asset management in real life is like, it is more tangible for the students, it's more beneficial for them, and this will not only benefit the women at the Canadian universities, but although any students in the university will be also to benefit from the real world practice where they have the real people from the firms being able to talk to them, guest lecturing them, and giving advice on the topics that they're currently studying at the moment. And we do recognize the limitations in terms of supply of the women in McKinsey because of the ratio of women is less than men. With this, we aim to feature managers level to leadership team. And the system that we're used to assign who will be guest lecturing on like which course for which school, it will be dependent on the course content and the area of expertise. Whether it's hard concept, we might invite the leadership team. If it's a more tangible concept, easy concept, then for the associates level might be the ones who are more reasonable to join the program. And we got the case study from Studio, which is online e-learning platform in Southeast Asia. So Studio offers elective course, as well as the CEO of Studio himself, he guest lecturing in the universities as a way to promote the course and also to teach students about like what are the machine learning is like, because his area expertise is machine learning. And moving on to our second strategy is Sisters to Sisters. So given this strategy, it is a mentorship program opens for all Canadian university students to join the program and receive mentoring opportunity. However, you might be wondering how does it different from the current initiative of the Women in Asset Management that we're currently do. So currently, McKinsey's current initiatives, as mentioned earlier, there are 3 pain points under this. First is the technical nature of the program that requires expertise to apply for the program, and in joining the program, there's the expertise in the training, the development of the program. Second, there's fixed program timing, which is done during the internships period and done only 1 year round. And third is the lack of personal touch points. With this, we aim to minimize these limitations with our Sisters to Sister program. So we match the participants of mixed universities according to their personalities, their interests together into the group of 10, regardless of their year. So we have the mixed year of the university students, and we assign 2 McKinsey's employees. One is the senior associate, and the other one is the associate level. And we'll schedule an online or offline mentoring session according to the availability of everyone to receive the monthly mentorship program. And the focus of the mentoring content is not on the asset management, it's not on the not only the finance technical aspect, but we aim to give them more relatable topics such as how do I know which career path suits me more. This is catered to all from first year to 4th year who want to know like what they want to do in the future, and how to prepare for the first daughter, or how is finance work-life is like, or any other topics such as work-life balance or anything. By doing this, we'll be able to have the session that's more inclusive to all university students. Second, better connections, bonds, and mentorships opportunity, which is a very important thing in finance career. And third, there's a flexible timing in doing this, so we can organize it monthly or bi-monthly dependent on the availability of everyone. And lastly, we gain better awareness on this because we aim to draw in the students and have the personal touch points with them. Moving on to our last initiative, which is Women at McKinsey. So with the current initiatives that we do, we recognize some of the pain points and gaps that we can leverage. Therefore, we aim to do 2 things under this. The first one is to have the women clubs inside McKinsey. So by hosting the internal employees club or hosting dinners for cash-ups for women, and this initiatives can be open for other university students to join the program as well. But you might be wondering how does it different from the current initiative that Women at Asset Management do. So as mentioned earlier, it focuses on the technical aspect, but what we aim to do is to have something more relatable topics for university students because we aim to cater it to everyone. And by doing this, some examples of workshops that we can aim for university students to do could be how to deal with discrimination or gender bias, or how to achieve self-empowerment, or something like work-life balance. And we aim to host this as like a session at the McKinsey office, inviting all the university students to join the program, to receive the mentoring sessions, to see what McKinsey office is like, to get the opportunity to talk one-on-one sessions with McKinsey employees. And we got this idea from Women at Bain and Women at BCG. These 2 firms, they are hosting Women at Bain, which is the initiative that they invite all the participants, all the university students to join the program and receive the workshop events. Some potential workshops are something like how to deal with discrimination and gender bias, or work-life balance at Bain, or something like that, which is more related topics. And that's all for the first strategy, which is recruit. Moving on to our second strategy, retain.
So in order to retain the existing women in finance or women in McKinsey, here's the underlying needs that they want to achieve to further doing the work in finance. The first one is skill learning curve. Second is the career progressions, and the last one is the right balance between work and life. The first one, which is the skill learning curve, is underlying from the gender bias that they will got assigned to the work that is more administrative than the work that will help them develop the skills that is related to the finance work. The second one is the career progressions. They need some advisories, they need some advocacies about the promotions, need a clear instructions of how to get promoted. The third one is the right balance of work and life, because women are going to be mom one day, and they have to decide whether they want to focus on their career or focus on their families. But that's the dilemmas of all the women working in finance that we would like to propose to you to solve. Therefore, we would like to propose to you our strategies, Rise Together. So this is a platform that is easy to use, that will have to adjust all the compensations, all the perks, and also explain all the career progressions for the employees in McKinsey. So Rise Together can be accessed using like the working browsers such as Microsoft Edge. And then inside we will cover 4 main features. The first one is adjustable compensations such as salary, bonus, and benefits. We will show them that they can change and adjust, similar to when we propose to our HR team and getting something back to achieve our main goals. The second area is the career progressions and promotions. So here we will show the skills it requires to meet for the next promotions, and also how many years that they have to work in our companies to achieve the next promotion. And then the third one is the project rotations and work time adjustment. These will have to achieve the work-life balance issue. And then the last one is a report portal to inform HR of any gender biases, as there's a lot of biases that can happen in the work environment. Therefore, we would like to use this as additional ways to help them be more happy with the working environment. So, let's meet Emily as in scenarios of how this Rise Together works. So Emily is a girl in finance, and she has been working here for around 10 years. She has a new goal in her life that in the next 5 years she wants to spend time with her partner more, and then she wants to become a mom in the next 2 years. Right now, she has a compensation of around 100K, and then she has the benefits as shown that the health insurance, she has a normal pay, the normal health insurance package. She has 3 weeks of unpaid leave. She has retirement funds and all others. And for the next promotions, she would need to improve her client engagement. She would need 1 to 2 years more of experience in finance, but for the financial skills, she has completed. So, as she wants to spend time with her family more and want to become a mom in the next 2 years, she would have to minimize the time, and she wants to reduce the time working, and then she wants to ensure that she have a stable income for her child in the future. Therefore, she would like to adjust her benefits plan. She wants to change from normal to extra for the health insurance to cover her pregnancy package. And then the second one, she wants to increase the unpaid leave to 5 weeks, and then she wants to retain the retirement funds. Therefore, after we done all the change in the benefits parts, the salary will be decreased, but the benefits compensations will increase. And for the next promotion, as she wants to have a stable income in the future, she would like to achieve the next promotion in the next 2 years before she becomes mom. Therefore, she would like to propose to her managers that she wants to rotate to the new projects that will help her to achieve the client engagement skills. So this will help by letting Emily to have a coffee chat with her managers and pitching herself that she is the one that would like to do the new work or the new projects that will help her with the client engagement and showing her strength as well. Therefore, the 5-year plans of Emily's will be achieved, and then this is not only for Emily's, but all women who have their own goals can be achieved. They can have the skill learning curve, the career progressions, and the right balance of work and life. Therefore, the women turnover rates in Mackenzie management will be low.
Honorable judges, doing these initiatives will not only affect women in ratio and increasing, but it also leads back to Mackenzie's as well. By having more women at work, we'll be able for Mackenzie to have better client management, as women play a very crucial role for clients' women in shifting their service or continue to using Mackenzie's.
To implement the strategy, there are 3 things that need to be done today. Firstly is to start contacting the universities for the partnerships for the guest lecturers. Secondly is to develop and design the system for the flexible features program. And lastly is the internal promotion of the sistership program. And as for the risk, I'll be happy to walk them through during the Q&A. And with this, you'll be able to attract around 176 female students within 5 years, and also with a 10% conversion rate, and also attract around 944 employees to be in the sistership program. And with this, you'll be able to reduce the turnover rate for females from around 43% to 25.8% through the mentorship programs and the flexible feature programs. And with this, you'll be able to increase the female in the workforce to 43% in total. And not only will you be able to increase the females in your workforce, you'll also increase your assets under management to around 241 billion by 2029, and also have minimal cost at only around 5.1 million in 2029.
With their strategy being proposed of one attract and retain, it is crucial for them to implement the strategy today to ensure a smooth and successful sale into the industry representing women.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. We'll now begin the question and answer period. Friendly reminder, the Q&A period will only be for 2 minutes long. Thank you.
I have 2 quick questions. I loved your example with Emily and your wives together. And I'm not sure if I understood the 3 weeks unpaid leave, but that's fine. My question is, what does it cost to Mackenzie by, you're decreasing their salaries and you're increasing their benefits. Do you know what that incremental cost to Mackenzie is per employee?
The productivity. Is that the answer?
Well, you're saying she's making $100,000 a year, right?
Yes.
So then you're saying, well, she's going to have a decrease in salary, but then the benefits get increased. Can you quantify what that amount is per employee? Because if you're doing it on a scale of 1,300 employees and assume 30% are employees of them, and say 20% of those want to take off, you're looking at 80 or 100 women that are looking at that same thing. So is it cost to that?
Okay, so to answer your question, the cost is listed here. So for the compensation and leave, we have set up a budget per employee that is interested at around 800. However, the compensation and leave is not like operating at the same time. So we will have like a specific target at around like 10% that is like the maximum cap for like each like round for each employee to reach that. And like if the quota is already full, we will not allow for any more like people to leave. So the workforce will be kept, and the workforce by our marketing programs as well. So this will not like make the entire workforce like leave at the same time.
And to add on to my colleagues, this idea was rooted from our case studies from the consulting firm, the top consulting firm in UP. They also have the unpaid leave program as well, but the HR will also allocate the unpaid leave time that the one as a first come first serve. As the one who requests for, let's say, leave in December, and another one came up to leave in December. However, the quota is full. The second one cannot get the leave during that time, and she has to adjust her plan.
Okay. And then just quickly on, you showed a slide that shows assets growing to 242 billion. How do you quantify that?
Okay, so it will come directly from the number of additional employees that we will be hiring. And right now, the assets under management per employee is around 156 million right now for Mackenzie. So with the increase of around increase in the number of employees to
to around 100 and to around 204 added to increase the employees to 249 additional employees, your assets under management will also increase. So this allows you to capture more of the untapped women in the market that by hiring more women workforce, you'll be able to capture this demand.
To add on to my colleague, one of the data point that we get from the case booklet is that women plays a very crucial role in drawing in the female clients as they felt more comfortable talking to the female client, as well as they're more likely to switch the wealth management firm or use more of our service if the personality fit together. Therefore, we see this potential in leading back to McKinsey's financial goal of having more women in their workforce to be able to serve more demand of our clients, and leading back to the financial goal, we'll be able to have more asset under management after this.
I'm interested in knowing where you're getting the female students converted and exposed numbers from. Because I see 60, I think, in the first year, 81, and what you're using as your assumptions in terms of how many would actually convert into program.
Okay, so for the attraction, it will come from three main sources, which is the university classes, the clubs, and also the invitational sessions. And with the three sources, the conversion rate for the classes will be around 15 to 80%. As for the clubs, it will be around 20 to 24%. And as for the invitational sessions, it will be around 5% because it will be something from social media and it will be a bit more selective. So this is the sources for the 10% conversion rate in total.
And the social media is just the marketing of this program,
Yes.
or it's its own social media?
Yes, it is the marketing of these programs to put it into better picture. So in our first strategy recruit, right, whether it's sisters to sister, women at McKinsey's, or the guest lecture program, we'll aim to include that in the social media platform of McKinsey's in order to show the world that we're putting initiatives in empowering women.
Just to dig into that a little more, so is your focus to basically create this internship program the same way E&Y or Price Waterhouse would, which is to focus on third-year students and then identify people that you probably want to bring in as employees? So is this whole program a screening process as well as an introduction to asset management?
So to clarify, your question is that are our initiatives the same as what PwC or Deloitte's doing in targeting year 3 students into the workforce? Is that correct? So we recognize that currently McKinsey's, they're doing the internship program, which is the Women in Asset Management, which is kind of like a program where we recruit students, we train them, and then they enter into the internship programs. And we think that this is a very bold initiative that McKinsey is already doing. However, we do see that there are pain points doing these initiatives. The first thing about the pain point is that all these initiatives, they're very technical in nature. So those who would apply or know about these initiatives must be those who are already interested in asset management or have some knowledge and expertise about the asset management, which we see that the main goal that we're here today to tackle is that to make university students, women university students, be more aware of work in finance, be more aware of the opportunities. Therefore, we aim to make this less technical, as well as doing more the long-term support from post-program, and also to make the program more flexible instead of right now we're doing the program timing being like in the fixed schedule. And this could be done through the introduction of our 3 strategies. And if you would like the deep dive of the strategies, I'm here to elaborate more.
Thank you.
One last question.
Yes.
What is the cost to implement?
Okay, so mainly it is around can you turn to the next slide? It will be around 5.1 million. So it will mainly come from the flexible futures, like the flexible programs, and also from the attraction programs. And the cost drivers of the attraction programs include, for example, the instructor fees that will be sending to the universities and the clubs, and some of the cost drivers for the retention strategy would include something like the cost for coffee chats, cost for initiating the sistership programs or the job rotations that will come from the second strategy.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone for
Thank you very much.
Thank you delegated judges. I'll ask everyone now to leave the room. You can stay here, judges.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
keeper for the day. I'll show you the warning signs when there are 10, 5, 2 minutes and 30-second remaining. Once the 10-second countdown is up, I'll say stop, after which the team must stop talking immediately. Afterwards, a 10-minute question and answer period will follow. I would like to remind you that all team must present for a minimum of 15 minutes and all team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. For the audience members, we ask you to please place your phone on silent mode and remain seated in the room for the duration of the full presentation and Q&A period. I will now let the judges introduce themselves. Once they are done, you may begin the presentation. The judges.
Thank you. I'm Anila Shans from IG Wealth Management. It's been 29 years in the finance industry.
Hi, I'm Shauna Denis. I'm a VP of Content and Commercial Marketing for the Montreal Canadiens.
Hi, Jim DeGiacomo. I've spent 37 years in banking, investment banking, etc., and I'm now retired.
Marco Ottoni, graduate of Concordia. I worked in finance for 25 years, trading stocks, and then I started a palliative care residence nonprofit 10 years ago. Happy to hear what you guys have to say.
Bienvenue and good afternoon. My name is Queena, and today on behalf of Lee Valley Consulting, alongside my teammates Victoria, Jacob and Mark, we are delighted to present our future growth strategies for Mackenzie Investment. Growing up, I wanted to be a princess. I know, a very realistic goal for 6-year-old me. But as I grew up, I thought, what else could I do? And as I thought this, I looked to the strong women in my life and thought about what careers they had. Some were teachers, some were even doctors, but funnily enough, none of them worked in asset management. I honestly never even considered asset management because I didn't see anybody that was similar to me working there. And this is why representation is so important. When women see other women that lead in business, it sparks the belief in them that they belong in this space too. And Mackenzie Investment is leading this change, helping the asset management industry to #balance the books. Today, we have created a 3-step strategy to help Mackenzie Investment increase the recruitment and retention of women in the asset management industry. Our first step is to increase recruitment. Secondly, we will scale the female mentorship program before finally our growth and development strategies implementation. This will have a huge impact for the business, encouraging young women to consider careers in asset management, boosting promotions and satisfaction, as well as increased well-being and career progressions for females in the industry. Currently, they operate in a highly competitive industry, facing strong competition from competitors such as Sun Life Financial, CI Financial, and TD. And while all of their competitors have strengths, Mackenzie stands out due to their commitment to innovation and diversity. And we believe that, in conjunction with our strategies from today, will help them to become a leading player in the market. I will now pass you over to Mark to talk you through our SWOT analysis.
Thank you very much, Leona. So, here at Lee Valley Consulting, we carried out a brief SWOT analysis in order to gain a better understanding of Mackenzie's current operations. So, as you can see here, firstly in terms of strengths, they currently outperform the industry average in terms of female participation in the asset management world, so that which stands at 12.5%, whereas Mackenzie are currently at 30%. Then secondly, they have very good established programs already in terms of female participation. Moving on then to weakness, they have a very high female turnover, which needs to be dealt with, which we'll be talking in our solutions. And secondly, they have a lack of mentorship programs. They don't have enough female in leadership positions, which are able to guide through these younger employees. And then, in terms of opportunities and threats, our first opportunity is their pre-university awareness. So we'll be talking about this later on in terms of social media campaigns and targeting. Secondly, their mentorship development programs, which we'll be talking about in Solution 2. And then in terms of threats, we have the female perception of finance. So there is kind of a stigma around female being in finance and kind of a stereotype that is all men. And then secondly, their rival firm female participation rate. So as I talked about, they are at 30% at the moment, whereas other firms could be higher as well. So we are going to leverage these opportunities and strengths and try and mitigate these threats and weaknesses in our forthcoming strategies. I'll now pass you on to Jacob, who's going to talk you through our key challenges from this analysis.
Thank you, Mark. So before we get into the solutions that we've devised, we always feel it's very important to drill down into what are the challenges that the company we're dealing with are facing. So from the case study and our own analysis, we found the low popularity of finance amongst pre-university females was a major challenge. You need to plant the seed early with people if you want them to go into a career. So this is a major challenge we identified. Also, the perception of finance as a masculine profession. This was clear from the case study and our own research, and it's also something that we've noticed ourselves in college. And of course, the retention and development of female staff has been a major challenge. Their staff turnover, the churn was over 10% more than for male counterparts in the company. On top of that, we also felt that the female preference for other female financial advisors is a major challenge for them at the moment, as they haven't reached parity amongst their staff within this. From the case study, we saw that the assets being passed over by 2028 is going to be around $1 trillion or $1 trillion Canadian dollars, and if females feel more comfortable dealing with a female financial advisor, it's very important that they find a solution to this problem. And of course, the challenges of scaling their mentorship network. We found crazy stats on the benefits of mentorship, but they're doing it the traditional way, and we feel that finding a better way for scaling up mentorship could have major impacts for the challenges we've identified. So for solution one, I'll pass it on to Victoria to walk you through.
Thank you very much. So we've now heard all about the challenges that are facing our business landscape today. The exciting part of the challenge is the fact that there's an opportunity in it. Where there's also a risk, there's a potential for a reward. So what if we could eliminate gender stereotypes, any obstacles? That's what we're here to show you today. A strategy that will work, that will give opportunities for maybe perhaps a younger female generation. So for the first part of this solution, we suggest a female networking event. Just a couple of statistics to show you that this actually works and actually benefits women. We have some PMC research, so women make up 70% of global events in the industry, but only 16% of top management holds these positions. Business Wire research state that 80% of professional women are at manager level and above use networking to advance their careers. More than 70% of women leaders have used networking to achieve organizational goals. So this proves that caring for women in business makes a meaningful and lasting impact. More importantly, we would like to share these female networking events with a bit of a younger generation. We want to target high school. So not only university level, but going that level below. We believe starting them early gives them a larger opportunity to look into career progressions, how careers branch out, more opportunities, and most importantly, they have more time to think. So the benefits of this exposure for high school students, like we were saying, it's an access to opportunity. So exposure to lucrative opportunities. Opportunities to learn from startups, all guest speakers, their stories, motivations, what actually inspired them, skill development, communication, confidence boost, a main one, something that I had to learn myself. Growing up, I was quite young, I was obviously quite shy, didn't know how to come out of my shell, and I think going into high school, I learned that through exposure at these events, I was able to actually learn from professional people and honestly boost my own self-confidence. The other one is exposure to diverse careers, so broader understanding of future professions, like I was saying, the way different professions branch out, different career options. So an example of this, we would like to run a event similar to the Young Women in Business event in Toronto. So this is a non-for-profit organisation that provides high school, university-aged women with mentorship, professional development, workshops, different guest speakers. So they're introducing young women to different careers, focusing on empowering them to become leaders. And just a quote that I really like that resonated with this is, "The future of business is bright with women who dare to dream, lead with purpose, and break barriers." For the next part, I will pass you to Clina to talk you through some social media campaigns that work hand in hand with this.
When it comes to targeting pre-university students, it is absolutely paramount to have a strong social media presence. 83% of teens use TikTok daily for at least 2 hours. And while it may seem like they're mindlessly scrolling, they're actually taking some of it in, with 41% of Gen Z having made a career-related decision based on TikTok advice. This is why we propose that they should start 2 content strategies. The first being #BreakingTheBias. These are interviews of real employees, women who work in asset management, talking about what they studied, what made them want to pursue a career in asset management, and showing other women that it's not that scary. It's achievable and accessible for them. The second one would be Day in My Life. So it would be a day in my life of a woman in asset management. And this would help to overcome the intimidating reputation of finance. A lot of times, finance is seen as boys, and then marketing is for girls, but that's just not true. Women can be just as good as finance, and they just need to be shown that this is something that is accessible and able for them to do. Here is an example of some of the content that we would promote. So this is Fate. She works in asset management, and at the beginning of her career, she was told no, something that a lot of women in life have been told. An executive even said to her, generally, they don't hire women into business roles. And she didn't back down. She didn't apologize for taking up space. Instead, Fate said, I'm going to prove you wrong. And she did. Currently, she is the head of sustainable investing at McKinsey. Having a strong hook such as, I'm going to prove you wrong, or even something as simple as, why you should consider asset management in 60 seconds, can boost engagement by nearly 2 times and increases viewer retention by 43%. Something so simple can be incredibly effective. Furthermore, by having a real employee of McKinsey Investment, it comes across as more authentic and genuine. 55% of Gen Z value authenticity in online content, and so will be more likely to relate to this type of content. And with 62% of Gen Z being more likely to apply for jobs they saw on TikTok, this is a simple solution for increasing retention that is both cost-effective and inspiring for young women. I will now pass you on to Jacob to talk you through solution 2.
Thank you, Lena. So, once the employees have been recruited and are in the company, McKinsey needs to mentor them and develop them. And this can be easy at a company that has 10 or 20 people. You can pick one person, match them with another. But McKinsey has over 1,000 employees. At scale, this is an extremely difficult process. You're connecting a number of different software solutions that you have. You're trying to draw data from multiple places. So we found a solution that would help them scale up their female mentorship program. And that solution is the Together platform. They're a Canadian-based company, and they offer an integrated mentoring platform for companies. And our recommendation is that they integrate and apply Together's internal mentorship software today. It allows quick integration of their existing human resources information system software. Their single sign-on providers such as Microsoft can integrate quickly, and calendar and video conferencing software such as Zoom and Calendly. And this can be done in a matter of weeks. One big problem that people have with mentoring is matching the right mentors with the right mentees. Together's customers have a 98% success rate of matching mentees with mentors. And when you're trying to go for non-traditional versions of mentoring, when you're trying to go into group mentoring or peer-to-peer mentoring or reverse mentoring, it gets much more complicated. And we feel these are mentoring systems that would work. As with group mentoring, if you have less high up women that you're trying to bring, if you're trying to bring in many entry-level women and scale up the amount of women in your company, and you only have a number of higher up women, group mentoring is a perfect solution, having one mentor for a number of women coming into the company. And peer-to-peer mentoring, women that have entered the company recently, enhancing their experience by working with each other to improve their progression through the company. And reverse mentoring, mentees actually giving advice back to the mentors. We feel this would be extremely important as they give their personal experiences and they share their what's going on and remove the blind spots of the mentors. And this platform offers templates for these mentoring programs, which allows them to hit the ground running. And of course, tracking progress is vital. And this platform allows them to track progress. You're no longer managing with your mentoring system using Slack and emails and a number of different software solutions. It's all handled in one place, and we feel it's the perfect solution. So why? We've found that it's vital that they start scaling their mentorship program. So 84% of Fortune 500 companies and 100% of the top 50 companies have a mentoring program, and 76% of employees see the value in a mentorship program. However, only 63% of women have never had a formal mentor. This is a crazy statistic. It's clearly valuable, everyone knows it, and the top companies know it, and it's not being utilized. There's also many benefits to mentoring. So it boosts retention, not only in the mentees, but also in the mentors. A study done by Gartner at Sun Microsystems over 5 years found that mentees' retention increased by 22% when they had a mentor, but also the mentors felt more engaged with their job, and that increased retention for them by 20%. And it also improves employee satisfaction with their jobs, which makes them more productive and more efficient and motivated employee is a better employee. So in employee satisfaction, 87% of mentors and mentees reported that this improved their satisfaction with their job. And promotions, I couldn't believe this figure when I came across it, but studies have shown that women are 5 times more likely to get promoted when they have a mentor. So there's no arguing with that. They need to scale up this process, and in a big company, to get the Together platform is the perfect solution. So talking about measuring it, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it, and especially when it's not financial, when it's hard to track financially, KPIs are very important. So based on the KPIs that McKinsey wants to track, we feel that these are for the solution 2, these are the KPIs that are most important. So program participation, this is tracked within the Together platform. The mentor-mentee matching success, as I said, Together have a 98% success rate amongst their customers with this platform. Career progression, you can track the progression of an employee as they progress through this. You can measure how well they're doing and how they've risen through the ranks on this platform. And of course, the feedback. Feedback is also integrated into this software solution. But aside from mentoring, the turnover rate, which is in the high 30s for McKinsey, that can be reduced, and that's another KPI we feel that they need to keep track of to measure the benefits of this. And of course, the promotion rate. As I said, women are 5 times more likely to get promoted when they have a mentor, and the promotion rate is another vital KPI to measure the impact of this solution for McKinsey. So I'll now pass it on to Mark to talk through solution 3.
Thank you very much, Jacob. So Victoria and Cliona have discussed how we can recruit these females into the industry. Jacob has discussed how we can mentor them once they're into the industry. We now need to discuss how we can develop and grow these females once they're the existing employees within the company. So the first problem that we discovered was that these females don't feel like they can progress the same way that these male employees can. So that's why we propose the McKinsey Scholarship Program. So firstly, what is this McKinsey Scholarship Program? It is for these women who are early on in their career and they're hoping to work their way up the corporate ladder and have these high responsibility positions within the company. So what else is it? We are going to provide comprehensive support. So that comes in the way of financial support. It will be support in terms of mental support. So it will be previous women that have already went through this process and they can support them along the way. And finally, it will be the top 5% selected. So it will be after the first year, we'll be choosing the top 5% of women within the industry already, and we'll be choosing them based on performance, based off some of the metrics that Jacob discussed. Then, secondly, why will we be doing this? So the first reason is that we need to these women are seeking to be upskilled. So they seek higher qualifications, they seek more confidence in the workplace, and achieving this master's program is one key way of doing this. Secondly, retention and growth. So if these females feel like they are more qualified and they're kind of working their way up the corporate ladder, they're more incentivized to stay on at the company and kind of grow along the corporate ladder, as I was saying. And then finally, it will address the gender disparities. So the whole key problem is that women don't feel they aren't in positions of power in comparison to men. So we need to this is one way that we can kind of even out the balance and make it more 50-50, I suppose. And then how are we going to go about doing this? So it'll be a structured framework. So and there'll be ongoing mentorship. And the one way that we're going to ensure that it's going to be a useful, I suppose, tool is that we'll be integrating kind of a post-master approach. So it's all well and good to have this master's program, but they need to ensure that there is kind of a stepping stone after the master's program, that they're going to go into positions of leadership after this program. So our second problem that we discovered was that women didn't feel comfortable going back into the workplace after our pregnancy. So this quote sums up perfectly here. I feel like stepping away from maternity leave put me behind in my career and I'm struggling to catch up. And these stats back it up perfectly. So 43% of women report that taking maternity leave negatively impacts their career trajectory, which is absolutely astounding. Women's earnings drop by 4% per baby, and 25% of women leave the workforce within 1 year of returning from maternity leave. So, how can McKinsey go about solving this issue? So, the first problem is that we propose a full home office setup. So, we have allocated $3,000 Canadian budget so that women can integrate laptops, furniture, so they're at the comfort of their home. Secondly, we have flexible work arrangements. So we're going to give them flexible hours, we're going to give them hybrid work options so they're comfortable working from their home, they're comfortable having a hybrid workspace, so they can work from home one day and go into the office the next day. And finally, we have these new mother programs who will have tailored counselling to new mothers, as well as having group support to mothers who are recently pregnant and they want to be supported by other people in the workplace. So now I will pass you on to Victoria, who will discuss the first financial solution.
Okay, so I'm conscious of the time, so I'll just do this very quickly. But basically, our costs were based off of the Toronto event. So we came to a total, including obviously rental, speakers, catering. This is for all of the events. So we got to $7,500. And then in terms of the marketing element, this depends on the entry level. So if we're hiring somebody, it could range from $45,000 a year up to $95,000 a year. For further financials, we happily take them in the Q&A session. And now I will pass you on to Cliona for the final elements.
So in conclusion, when it comes to our hashtag balancing the book strategy, this is how it will hit Mackenzie's KPIs. The recruitment will result in increases in diversity, employer branding, and application rates. There'll be high matching success with the mentorship platform, and the development and growth will have increased opportunities for all of them. After our strategy is implemented, there will be increased rates of female employee retention and development, and strong mentor and mentee relationships. With this strategy in place, Mackenzie is well positioned to disrupt gender stereotypes by increasing the recruitment and retention and development of women in asset management, helping them to hashtag balance the books. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Presentation is up. We'll now begin the question and answer period. Just a friendly reminder, they will only last for 10 minutes.
You didn't get into it, I'm assuming, because of the time. But can you go into the platform that matches the mentors and mentees?
Yep.
Is it something also that's just internal? So it's for people who are already working for the company, or is there also an external component where you can find a high school mentee?
So it's just internal. So it'll connect higher up employees, like C-suite executives, with lower employees that want advice around what's peer-to-peer and group mentoring. It's fully internal, and it's been used by like top brands around the world. So we're looking to find what other companies have been doing. They mentioned they want to see what has worked for other companies. So companies like Kellogg's and Heineken use this platform for internal mentorship. So that's why we felt that would be a good solution.
Question concerning the scholarship program, if you can go back to that slide. What's the timeline for implementation? I heard a year or something. Can you elaborate more on that?
So we have a timeline slide here. So it will be coming in on year 3 so we're firstly going to prioritize solution 2 regarding the Together platform in year 1. Then year 2 we'll be implementing the kind of events which Victoria was discussing, and then year 3 we'll be implementing the internal scholarship program. And that will be recurring in then year 3, year 4, year 5 onwards.
I have a question with regards to mentoring. In your mind, do mentors require training as well?
Yeah, that's actually interesting you brought that up, because you see Together is an Absorb company, which is another Canadian company, and they do training for companies. So you can have management training, but they also do mentoring training. So like as an extension of their product line, they do offer training. So I think that like anything, mentoring isn't something that you either have it or you don't. Like it's a skill that you develop. So I definitely would say that that's something that if they're going to implement this platform, they should look into training higher ups to be efficient mentors. And by going to Absorb, the parent company of Together, they would be able to purchase catalogs and videos for training their executives on how to offer like efficient mentoring. I definitely think it's important to look into that, to make sure that they don't just hit the ground running just with this platform, that they train them to be good mentors for the women coming up the ranks. So,
thank you.
For your social media campaigns, will it just be organic, or have you factored in any kind of paid advertising to help grow? I'm assuming they don't currently have a TikTok account, so how will you grow your following on TikTok?
So we would prioritize organic kind of content, especially on TikTok. When you actually pay for them to promote something, it's guaranteed to boost your views, but it doesn't always boost the likes. So sometimes if you see, you know, a video and it's 10k views, 5 likes, automatically in your mind you're kind of thinking, well, this content isn't valuable, why doesn't it have a higher engagement ratio? So we find that the organic content will stand out more, particularly to Gen Z who value authenticity in their social media content.
So the cost is just the staff that you're hiring, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, especially with how TikTok runs, like just from my own experience, when it used to be your feed was just people that you followed, paid ads were much more important. But the way TikTok works now, where it's just the algorithm showing you stuff, making engaging content like with good hooks and stuff we were talking about there, that's what's most important, because unengaging content that is paid for, people just swipe past it, but so the focus should be on organic, engaging content, so yeah.
I know you touched briefly on the finances. Do you have like a total cost? Like I see each one is independent. Do you have an aggregate total cost for your programs or your solutions or your recommendations?
No, that's something we were working on towards the end. We just didn't have the time because the recurring nature of the costs. We didn't get time to add them all up.
So you're stating that these are the 3 solutions that you recommend, and your recommendations are these 3 solutions.
Yeah.
In tandem.
In tandem, yeah. Like, so over 5 years, we believe that each of these would, from recruiting onto mentoring and developing early and later stage employees, we believe that these are 3 solutions that tackle those problems.
You show one slide with solution 3 financials. You have 1,300 total employees times 30%. So that's the amount of employees that Mackenzie has currently.
Yes. Yeah.
So your assumption.
30% being women. Literally, so 390 women here.
Okay.
And then the scholarship is being awarded 2%, which is 8. And then with the 10,000 being the average cost of the master's program, which is $80,000 Canadian. And then the same kind of assumptions apply here for the post-pregnancy program, which leads us to 110,000 per annum.
Any questions? Jim, good? Any?
Good.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'll ask everyone to leave the room so we can set up the next presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hello, my name is Jade, and I'll be your timekeeper for the day. I'll show you your warning sign where there are 10, 5, and 2 minutes, also a 30-second remaining. Once the 10-second countdown is up, I'll say stop, after which the team must stop talking immediately. Afterwards, a 10 minutes question and answer period will follow. I would like to remind you that all the teams must present for a minimum of 15 minutes, and all the team members must speak during the presentation, but not necessarily during the Q&A period. For the audience members, just turn up your phone and stay in the room during the presentation as well as the Q&A period. Judges, you can present yourself.
Anita Sham from Management, been 29 years in finance.
I'm Shauna Denis, I'm VP of Content and Commercial Marketing for the Montreal Canadiens hockey team.
Hi, Jmucc, graduate of Concordia, 37 years in banking and currently retired.
Marco Tony, also graduate from Concordia, 25 years in finance.
You may start.
Over the past few years, we've seen an increase in these two key buzzwords throughout the corporate world: diversity and representation. And with it, this new trend has also sparked some sorts of backlash, with the increasing debate on whether or not affirmative action actually brings value to these companies that are following it. But today, we're going to bring together a presentation for you to make a business case on why Mackenzie Investments can truly benefit from bolstering diversity and representation, which they've already done a great job of doing so. Hello, Mackenzie team. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Dennis, and I'm joined by Theo, Vanch, and Willem on behalf of Edge Consulting. Today, we'll be laying out a 5-year, cost-effective, and quickly actionable roadmap for you to really bolster these two key qualities while laying out the business case for you to do so. So, to start at the top, let's take a look at the industry. What does it look like in terms of diversity and representation, specifically for females? One key statistic I want to highlight is that only 12% of investment professionals in Canada are women. And we can already see that we're slightly below the global average of 12.5%, which is already not too great of a number. And what's increasingly concerning is that this ratio has stayed stagnant for the past 20 years, despite increasing efforts in the corporate world around this area. But why is this an issue? This is because of a lack of female business students. In the statistics, we see that this isn't the case. More than half of university students are female, and 25.7% of finance students are female. This means that at least a quarter of our investment professionals should be female, correct? So why exactly is this a prevalent issue today? Today, we'll walk you through the 3 points of the people pipeline: attraction, recruitment, and retention. And we'll discuss what the key pain points are for applicants and job goers at each stage, and how you can tack on quickly actionable and cost-effective solutions to quickly gain value. But before that, let's talk about how Mackenzie is doing compared to the industry. We painted a bleak picture about the industry as a whole, but how are we doing as a company? Well, firstly, I want to start with Mackenzie's mission. They want to build unshakable partnerships with advisors who in turn will build unshakable partnerships with investors. And this will tie in later on with our business case for why we want to implement our solutions. Now, we want to highlight that Mackenzie is doing great in their industry, which is asset management. It is shown in the numbers: $203 billion in total assets under management, over 1 million clients, and 1,300 employees, which 175 of are investment professionals. But not only are they an industry leader by performance in the industry, also in the issue of women empowerment and representation, we can see we're overperforming not just in the industry, but in the global average. As I mentioned before, 12% nationally and 12.5% as the global average. And the reason that they're doing so great compared to the country and compared to the industry as a whole is because of their Mackenzie Together program, which focuses on key initiatives to resolve the pain points at the recruitment, mentorship, and benefits level. But what can we do today to improve these? So, and secondly, we want to talk about just why is this issue more important than ever. This is the business case for doing so, as I mentioned, we'll cover today. So, we can see that there's an incoming wealth transfer specifically in Canada. 2/3 of consumer spending is heralded by females. And a key thing we want to highlight is that by 2028, we're going to see the assets of Canadians balloon to nearly double when it comes to females, from 2.2 trillion today to 4 trillion by that year. That's in just a few years, 2 to 3 years. And this is driven by two key factors. One, higher education. We can see in Canada that there's a high percent of women that pursue higher education. And secondly, demographics. When it comes to baby boomers, they're starting to move to that passing age, but women tend to live on average 6 years longer. This means that baby boomer males who are passing are bequeathing all that wealth to their female partners, who now have all that management control in their hands. Why is this important to Mackenzie? Well, two key insights we want to highlight is that 8 in 10 of Canadian women change their financial advisors within just the first year of their partner passing. What do they value in their investment planners? Well, 84% of high net worth female clients place increased value on seeing female representation in leadership and advisory roles. This means that if we don't have a strong pipeline of women here at Mackenzie, all the way from beginner level roles to senior leadership and advisory roles, these female Canadians who are coming into this wealth do not see us as someone who aligns with their values, and it's not someone they want to trust with their money. So a key takeaway from this is that women empowerment actually has a tangible correlation with Mackenzie's business improvement, business performance. It's not just about hitting diversity metrics. And so that brings us to our executive summary. Today you've asked us to build out a cost-effective and quickly actionable 5-year plan for you to recruit, mentor, and develop female asset management professionals here at the firm. And as I mentioned, there are those 3 key stages we're going to focus on: attraction, recruitment, and retention. So attraction, how can we better raise awareness through different touch points to break down the negative perceptions of the asset management industry that women have? Recruitment, once we've broken down those stigmas, how can we bring those women who are now more aware to be interested in working at Mackenzie? And retention, once we've brought them into our pipeline, how can we ensure that they want to stay long term and can move to those leadership and advisory senior leadership roles? So let's walk through our recommendations at each point at a high level. At the attraction stage, we're really just improving all of the touch points that we have. We have great touch points right now with the different universities we work with and key interest groups and student groups that we work with. We're just simply aiming to increase these. This is a really low-hanging fruit for us, but also yields great benefits. And at these touch points, we're going to be promoting Meet Mackenzie. So what's Meet Mackenzie? Meet Mackenzie is our flagship conference that talks about the roles at Mackenzie, how we support them, and through this program, we're already starting to do some sort of filtering process because there's resume, cover letter, and transcript screening before students can be admitted into Meet Mackenzie. Now from here, standout delegates at Meet Mackenzie can be selected for Meet Mackenzie mentors. They can be paired one-on-one with a Mackenzie professional, and we can have different initiatives like a day at work or different technical skills that they want to help build. And finally, when our students are in the talent pipeline, we want to ensure that they have ample career transparency and the roles that they're taking on fit the role descriptions that we laid out for them when we hired them. And the overall impact, looking at several case studies of other wealth management or asset management firms, is that we have around 35% more applicants through these increased touch points and the flagship conference, and retention improves by around 20% by tackling the key pain points around lack of career transparency and lack of depth of role, where females are more so tacked onto administrative tasks. So again, here are the key objectives of each of the stages that we're going to aim to highlight. So at the awareness stage, we want to increase the attractiveness of our industry. At the recruitment stage, we want to identify standout talent and bring them into our pipeline. And retention, we want to ensure that they want to stay long term and move to those senior leadership roles. So let's walk through the key pain points at each stage. At the attraction stage, we mentioned that there are limited exposure to asset management roles and negative stigmas. So we want to aim to increase the touch points. At the recruitment stage, because there are unconscious biases in the recruitment process and limited representation in senior roles, we want to have a pipeline that is tailored for women through Meet Mackenzie, identifying those standout delegates. And finally, in the retention stage, there's a lack of role depth and a lack of sponsorship from mentor figures. We have great mentorship capacities, however, there's no sponsorship, so female candidates are unable to move transparently around the company. So Theo, how should we go about tackling these pain points?
Thank you, Dennis. Now let's first take a look at what Mackenzie is doing great with. So first of all, let's take a look at the current perceptions that applicants face when applying to these wealth management roles. Currently, there's a lack of awareness and exposure to the industry for females. Secondly, there's gender stereotypes and biases, work-life balance concerns, and also a lack of representation and role models in the industry. All this leads to struggles to find role models for these applicants, and also the key thing we must do is to increase our early talent pipeline. In order to make sure we have this development framework, we first have to increase the funnel at the top using a top-down approach, making sure we filter and we send as much information as we can to applicants and then filter them down accordingly. Now, take a look at what Mackenzie is doing right now. They're currently doing 4 things: educational partnerships, Mackenzie Together charities, DEI programs, and Mackenzie Global Leadership Funds. All these are very great initiatives. However, we're proposing 3 additional ones: the Meet Mackenzie event, sponsor case competitions, and also mentorship programs. All these actually impact 3 main things. The first one I'd like to highlight is our low-hanging fruit, which is women in finance student groups. These women are already interested in joining wealth management, and we can target them directly by increasing our sponsorships to these programs, making sure we're able to tackle this efficiently. The second thing is women in business groups. These are women who are interested in business, but not necessarily interested in finance or wealth management. This is a significantly harder challenge to overcome, and this is where we target more funding to these sponsorship events. Finally, it's women in business new graduate programs. Maybe they don't have access to these student groups or these business groups as well. How do we specifically target them? Well, we can target them through our framework. And by doing this, we can increase touch points to break down these negative perceptions. This leads us to Meet Mackenzie, our flagship event. With this, we have a conference for over 100 interested students, making sure that they're interested in joining Mackenzie directly. With this, we can use resumes, cover letters, and transcripts to really filter down that funnel, making so that Mackenzie is labeled as a great place to work for these applicants. And with this, we can select standout applicants, making sure we can mentor them with Mackenzie's current advisors and mentors, making sure that we have a sustainable pipeline for future applicants as well. And with this, we've done a lot of case studies about industries as well. And the 2 I'd like to highlight is Goldman Sachs Women Possibility Summit and Morgan Stanley's Investment Banking Women Summits and Evenings. All these are very successful events that target to benefit women who are interested in capital markets and also wealth management, and funneling them into interested events at Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. And with this, we've tackled our first 2 pain points: attraction and recruitment.
Right, with that being said, we're able to attract women into Mackenzie and also recruit them. But how do we ensure that they stay with us? Now, when we look at the leading statistic, the number that stands out is 43%. This is over the past 10 years. The average turnover for female investment professionals is 43%. Now, the male counterpart is 29%, which shows that that's a substantial difference. Now, there are primary and secondary reasons for this number, but the two key primary reasons that we identified is, firstly, it's unclear of the next steps and opportunities for these industry professionals, the women ones, to actually go to the next level. The second one is the lack of support touch points. Now, when we look at exactly why this is, we can kind of see that we need to, in order to actually ensure that we retain individuals, specifically women, we need to increase transparency and support. Now, one of the ways to do this is career progression discussions. Now, this is something that isn't really implemented much across the workforce because it seems a little bit more related to performance reviews. But when we compare performance reviews to career progression discussions, we can see that performance reviews are mandatory, but they're usually more so for employers. But if we switch things around, career progression discussions they should be mandatory, but it should be for the employees. Now, what this really consists of is, 1, ensuring that these discussions are highlighting the transparency for the career trajectory. And lastly, let's bring in Melanie for the retention part. Now, she's growing and she's connected to her peers as she's liked, but how can she bridge the gap that she's facing right now in growing and feeling connected? Now, when we look at the ERGs, this is something that's already being implemented, for example, at PwC, one of the leading professional service firm. And what this entails is implementing a female-only ERG, a women's ERG as they call it, that allows them to, number one, access company-wide resources, two, having a mentoring platform that connects these individuals to specific leaders that's within their goals and ambitions, and three, increasing their visibility for performance, for promotions and career growth. Now, that being said, we highlighted on the attraction, recruitment, and retention stage, and we solved these key pain points.
Heading into our implementation, so we're looking out forward onto 5 years, but one thing I really want to mention is that we're not trying to do everything right away. We want to do it in little key stages. The first stage I really want to mention, between 2025 to 2027, we only want to hit about 50% of the branches. From the 16 you have, we don't believe that implementing all at once is something that will show the best results. We want to show it being rather slow while still being fast enough to make sure everything is operational by 2029. So one thing you can see from the left-hand side, we see the university partnerships and organizations. So things like Women in Capital Markets, other university groups that focus on either women in finance or women in business. We want to partner with them. We want to have touch points with them. And we want to show them that we care and we want to nourish a community that is kind of forthcoming on women in finance. The second thing I want to mention as well is the mentorship program. So we want to make sure that that university students are aware of Mackenzie, and this is through having them look at mentors across. When you look at how people were in their undergrad, the reason that they grow is because they have mentors to help them go to the next stage. This is one of the key things in the most recent times that women have found, is that they need some woman figure that kind of shows them that anything is possible, and we want to make sure that that is seen as early as possible. And the third and the final thing is being evaluation and improvement. We want to make sure that we're looking through each key stage of the implementation for this first section to see if there's anywhere to improve or even take a step back. We'll go into the finances on why that's important, but we want to make sure we cut costs if something does not work and use that money towards somewhere else that could instead be a better use of our money for this mission. Going on to our next section, I really want to talk about our second part, which was specifically recruiting motivated women through a unique experience, as Theo has mentioned. When we're looking at program development, I really want to emphasize how program development ends at 2027. This is when the program from the first stage has increased to being around 85 to 90% of all branches. We want to make sure that our first conference, our first big event, has as much people as possible. We want to take the time to make sure we understand what needs to be developed before we deploy this entirely. Going into the third section, I really want to also mention onto the ability to retain talent development. So retaining talent development is very crucial, but it cannot be rushed at all. We need to make sure that we have documentation to show that we're not trying to rush things, we're trying to keep them slow in order to make sure to let them know that we want to have you stay, but we don't want to do it as rushed off. We want to do it, we want to show you that we care and we took the time and effort to understand what it is we are implementing and why it will help you stay with us. Now, going into the cost, there's really three key callouts I want to mention. The first being in 2027. As you see, our cost kind of increased by 18%, and the reason that is due to the expansion, from moving from around 50% of the branches over to 80% of the branches. The second thing I want to mention is you see this retained cost kind of decreasing year over year, and that's because the way we calculate our cost is through FTEs, so full-time equivalents. We try to measure how much time each employee in, say, an HR department is spending on tasks on a recommendation and how much that would cost. So the way we calculated this is looking at the average annual salary of an employee, seeing the amount of minutes or hours they will spend, and then forecasting it over the 5 years. In 2027 and 2028, that's when most of the time from HR employees will be spent on creating the infrastructure and developing these products, while in 2029, it will be handed over to women in leadership, as this is a volunteer opportunity, so there is no cost to Mackenzie initially compared to these other stages. And the final thing I really want to mention is also awareness costs being very high compared to previous years, even higher than the expansion year. And that is because we're looking to make sure that implementation happens smoothly, and the way it happens smoothly is by having a lot of time spent into creating governance documents. And this governance document creation takes a lot of time from HR employees, requires a lot more handwork, and by 2027, it becomes an efficient process which doesn't take as much time. Something that took 5 hours 2 years ago now takes 1 hour because everything has been built out accordingly.
With that being said, our recommendations does come with respectiveness, the risk and the mitigations, but those I'd like to highlight is the inconsistent career progression discussions. Now we touched about how important this is compared to performance reviews, but the respective mitigation for this is standardizing this. standardizing these review templates and training these managers effectively to have these discussions, to intrinsically connect with employees, and to actually understand that there should be a specific framework to follow, understanding the role, experience, where they want to go, ambitions, and how they can actually get there.
So with that being said, we've covered so much these past 50 minutes, but let me walk you through the people pipeline one more time. At the attraction stage, we're simply increasing all the touch points that we have to break down the negative perceptions of the asset management industry. From here, we can continue to promote the Meet Mackenzie event, where students can submit their resume, cover letter, and transcript. We're starting to filter out some of those quality applicants. And from there, people come in, learn about Mackenzie, the roles they have, and we can start looking at the most standout delegates. We can put them through the Mackenzie mentorship program. And from there, once they're in, they have, and standout people who are in the Mackenzie mentorship program have a higher chance to be hired in an internship. And from there, we have career progression tools that really give them clarity from day one as an intern all the way to senior leadership roles on where they can go. So thank you, Mackenzie team, for joining us today, and we're so excited to help you build your edge with representation and diversity.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. We'll now pass to the Q&A period. We'll have 10 minutes only to answer the question. You may start now.
I was just going to ask if you could go over some of the financials a little bit. I'm not sure that I was fully following the awareness costs.
Of course. So we built up the awareness cost by looking at each type of, let's say, task that someone in an HR department would be commencing in order to kind of create this program. So the way we calculate each cost is we did a FTE metric, so full-time equivalent. And we figured out the amount of minutes a full-time employee might incur over a year and their average annual cost. So we used a cost of $60,000 annual per year and grew it at a rate like around 4 to 5% to basically just make sure we're consistent on that. And then after that, we took the amount of minutes. So as you can see, it doesn't show here, but we took the amount of minutes it takes for each specific task. And then from there, kind of reverse engineered into seeing how much dollars per minute they're making and how much minutes are they spending on these specific tasks. So in reality, it's not more so a cost that they're losing because we're not really employing another someone in the HR department. We're just utilizing their efforts into something else. So that may reduce, like, let's say FTE costs in recruitment for co-ops in order to build this. Or maybe if they do hire someone, they have an idea on how much it will actually cost and how much time they're spending on this specific task compared to other tasks overall. I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Mentors are a very important part of this. How do you propose to go about selecting mentors?
I can take this. So we believe, of course, as you mentioned, mentors are a very important part of this, and it is what separates students from being motivated to demotivated. And what we believe to do is looking at having the HR department specifically look within Mackenzie on who is fit to be a mentor. So the way it would usually work in a lot of organizations is they have a list of candidates and they mention are they willing to be a mentor and why. Once they confirm that they are interested, they then go into kind of a screening process similar to kind of screening for resumes. So if you go back to the finances, we actually forecasted the cost of this as well. We forecasted the cost of this as well with the program development and coordination. And as you can see, it kind of increases massively because we believe this is something that should be implemented around late 2025 and then 2026 is when it's fully put in. But then in 2027, again, this is not the full cost of finding mentors, this is just a portion of it. Since we have a very big, I guess, pond of mentors really already in mind, we can always reach out to them again saying, hey, you want to mentor some new students? Or find new students as well, right? Once this pipeline is built, it becomes easier and easier and easier to find mentors that have had an impact on these women who are trying to grow into this field or don't even know they want to get into this field without the help of a mentor.
Simultaneously, quick add-on is you have your mentorship program currently. It's for your full-time employees, and mentors are typically higher level managers. These higher level managers can designate junior staff that they believe have benefited from their mentorship and say, this would be a great mentor for the students. So with that, in that way, we can create that feedback loop of Higher level managers mentoring junior staff are mentoring students and creating that pipeline all the way through.
Thank you.
Question about your implementation slide, if you could go back, it's 36. Regarding the
Use the
employee resource group.
yeah.
The implementation phase is in 2027. What's the reasoning why it is taking place late in the process versus day one?
I'm so glad you asked that question. So the reason we want to do this is more so to keep it cost effective. So one thing we want to do by 2027 is have an understanding on what our pipeline is already looking like. After that, we want to make sure we understand on retention specifically. So if we start all the way back in 2025, let's say we start with development. If you're developing a bunch of things all at once in the same HR department, it's going to take much more longer, which then takes away from your recruiting efforts as well as your efforts into going into universities and trying to find other universities in order to, spread Mackenzie's name out. So the reason we started it around 2027, and 2027 is more so a deployment phase. 2026 is when the phase on actually making sure that documentation is created and everything is kind of set in stone for HR to release it in 2027. By then, 2029 is sent off to women in leadership into the company itself. So just TLDR on the question is the reason we're not starting right on day one is because they already have so many things going on that it makes no sense. We want to make sure that their retention, because that's the important part as well, is implemented perfectly without having to worry about the pipeline first.
How many universities are you going to roll out with right away?
So right away, we're believing, can we actually go back to the financial slide? Right away, so if you see the universities and partnership organization part, so the reason the cost is a bit higher is because, again, FTE on trying to find universities. We initially forecasted universities to be around 5 main universities, primarily in the Ontario and Quebec region, and then growing a bit more by 2027, where if we go back to the implementation timeline, that's when our first expansion happens. So these universities will most likely be target to mid-target schools, while expansion becomes non-target. So schools that may be closer to headquarters that doesn't require that much effort for Mackenzie to travel to, as well as kind of getting ready for, again, the unique experience that they will provide overall. But by, just to give you numbers, it would go 5, 7, 10. That's what we forecasted in our costs.
You guys use the acronym ERG. Is that like the Employment Resource Group or something, or is that okay?
Yes, it stands for Employee Resource Groups.
Okay.
Thank you, delegates and judges. I'll ask you now to leave the room to set up the rest. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.